Hello, good evening, and welcome to Glasgow Nation podcast live here on the channel with me, your host, Owen James, guys, bringing you all the latest from our club. And tonight we're going to talk about a particular topic. We're going to talk, obviously, about do Rangers need to look at the Scottish market? Do we need to bring in some Scottish players to this team? I've been having a little look back through the history books, looking at players, looking at numbers of Scottish players in our most successful seasons. Looking at types of players we had, looking at the numbers, and then we're going to look obviously at the players that could be possibly on the market. Sorry for the delayed start. I take my kids back to my ex's, and it's taken me absolutely ages to get them sorted and then to get home. So I do apologise for the late start. Lots of you in the live chat commenting already, so fantastic to have so many of you here tonight. Anyone else think Tav Goldson are staying? It's bugging me because they are saying nothing. I'm worried. I'm going to be 100%. I 100% worry that they will both still be here next season. I like Tav Goldson, but they're rubbish. They're finished. Tav's legs are giving in. Goldson can't defend or header a ball. I agree with you. I want the season to start. Yeah, I want some real football. Evening, Caleb. How you doing? All right. Yes, Mez, I do not think there is any truth in that room. I don't think Shankland will be coming to the club. I think that is a dead deal. I don't think that is ever going to happen. I genuinely don't think they're interested in Shankland. I don't think Shankland is a player they've even looked at, if I'm being honest with you, buddy. I think if we're going to get Shankland, we would have. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would happen in January. I don't think it's going to happen at all. 100%. Well, the transfer window isn't even open yet, and Goldson is injured. I still don't think anyone's going to get. I don't think anyone's going to buy them. I really don't. I really genuinely don't. Evening, Alder. How you doing, buddy? Good to have everyone here tonight. I want 56 badly, hoping we are seriously ready for the season. We've got here Tav shouldn't be in next season, or we'll be screwed. It's incredible, isn't it? The number of people who are still very much pro Tav and want to see Tav in the team next season. And there's a lot of people saying that Tav should play in midfield. But I'm sorry, I just don't buy into that at all. Tav should be here next year, absolutely. See if Shankland was a Celtic fan, nobody would even mention him. Well, quite rightly so. Well, you wouldn't want a Celtic fan playing for you at all. Now, look, today, obviously, very busy day for the club. Cortez, very early announcement today that Cortez, Cortez is coming to, he's signed on obligation to buy, and he will be coming to the club on loan next season with obviously that obligation. Good evening, Philippe. But glad you got your man today. But, that's great news. Cortez is coming. We've obviously signed Hefte. All those, are signed. We've got a Brazilian. We've got a Colombian. There we go. What have we got? Reports just came out from Saudi that they're about Tav and Goldson being top of Gerrard's shopping list, and they'll want a deal done before pre-season starts. Let's hope that is true. Hello from Toronto. Hey, Sid. Cortez, hope he doesn't get injured. Me too. Although I think the fact that was on the dodgy pitch at Killy, and it was obviously an impact injury. So there we go. So look, we're going to go look back. So for me, look, we're obviously linked with an awful lot of players from all across the globe. We're linked with Chileans. We're linked with Panamanians. We're linked with Kosovans. We're linked with all these different people. Now, look. For me, with 50 million for it, I don't think you're going to get that, buddy, David. I don't think you get 50 million for Tav and Goldson. Look, I think, we do need to bring in a Scottish core to this team, Now, I had a little look at what the situation is with Scottish players in the Rangers team currently. These are our Scottish players. Okay, these are not obviously including the youth players like Archie Stevens and so on. Archie's English, isn't he? Sorry, excuse me, he's not. Leighton Grant, for example, people like that. So that's not including this. These are our Scottish players that we currently have at the moment. Okay, so we've got John Suter, we've got Scott Wright, we've got Robbie McCrory, Robbie Fraser, Kieran Wright, Leon King, Cole McKinnon, Scott Wright, Adam Devine, Adam Lowry, and Bailey Rice. These are the Scots who are in the first team squad. Okay, this is the first team squad. These guys are all part of that first team squad, or have been part of the first team squad this season. So that totals 11 Scots. Okay, so that's 11 Scottish players there. Now, if you go down that list, there's a few of them that could well depart, and there's a few of them we probably hope will depart this summer. So John Souttar, obviously, I think stays. Scott Wright, we hope disappears. Robbie McCrory, there's a lot of talk about Robbie leaving. Robbie Fraser's actually out of contract. We need to secure him on a long-term deal for definite. Kieran Wright is another one out of contract. Leon King obviously will be here next season. Could be loaned out. That goes the rumour. Cole McKinnon will be part. I've got Scott Wright twice. Jesus Christ, it's like a nightmare. So it's 10. Adam Devine, Adam Lowry, and Bailey Rice. The Scottish core of our team will be homegrown trained players, the way it should be. I mean, that's very much the case, William. I think, you look at a lot of these kids, they have come through our academy. So look, there are Scottish core. Now, for me, we do need to have Scottish players. Keep Souttar, Adam Devine, and young McKinnon, says Sid. Robbie Fraser as well, hopefully on that list. So yeah, of that Scottish list, yeah, Souttar I'd keep, Wright's going to go, McCrory's going to go, Fraser I'd keep, Kieran Wright as a third choice, can't see the problem. Leon King I would keep, McKinnon I'd keep, Scott Wright again, God, he's like a bad penny. I'd get rid of. Devine I'd keep, Lowry I think will go. And Bailey Rice obviously needs to stay as well for me. So that's the ones that are there. So Robbie Fraser, yeah, absolutely. I want to see Robbie Fraser. Caleb says, should we send? No, I don't think so. We need to keep Ross McCausland in the team. Get Scott Wright to fuck. Seriously, I'd go for less players within the European squad if it meant right left. Yeah, I think we keep McCausland. You lad would be lucky to about those for Scott Wright. Please get rid. Lol. I think Scott Wright has to go. The guy is not up to it. So definitely for me. So yeah, Devine did play well for Motherwell. He was doing very well for Motherwell. So for me, you've got a few that are going to stay there. But if you go back across our history and you go back across Rangers, when Rangers have won the league, this is what I'm talking about now, is when Rangers have won the league. So if you go back to 88, 89, right, there were 20 Scottish players in our squad. Okay, our squad was largely Scottish and English. There was Gary Stevens, Trevor Stephen, Terry Butcher, people like that. But we had Scottish players in that team like Richard Goff, Ian Durrant, Derek Ferguson, Ian Ferguson, Graham Souness, obviously the player manager, John Brown, Ali McCoist, Davy Cooper, and Monroe. So we had, a real good Scottish core to our team. And all those Scottish players all got into the squad because of the fact they were very good footballers. So that was 88, 89. We had 20 Scottish players in our team and we won the league that season. In 89, 90, again, we won the league. This time we were down to 14 Scottish players. But we had players like, this is not the full 14, these were guys who played regularly for the first team. Ali McCoist, Mo Johnston, Derek Ferguson, Stuart Monroe, Richard Goff, John Brown, all Warriors, all top players. So for me, again, a big Scottish core to the team. 90, 91, we had 14 Scottish players again in our squad. And these players all played a major part in the squad. Was John Brown, Richard Goff, Stuart Monroe, Kevin Nisbet, Ian Ferguson, Mo Johnston, Ali McCoist, Ian Durrant. They were all players that played a substantial part in our title success that season. 91, 92, we were up to 16 Scottish players. Again, a league-winning season. We had Gorham, John Brown, Richard Goff, Nisbet, Davy Robertson, Ian Durrant, Ian Ferguson, McCoist, Johnston, and Stuart McCall. Now, if we take it further forward now to 94, 95, we had a substantial number of Scottish players in the squad again. And yes, we had the likes of Brian Laudrup in the squad, obviously, which helped. But we still had a massive Scottish core to this team. Ali McCoist, Duncan Ferguson, Gordon Jury, Andy Gorham, John Brown, Richard Goff, McLaren, McPherson, Davy Robertson, Ian Durrant, Ian Ferguson, Charlie Miller. Then in 08, 09, we had 20 players in the squad who were of Scottish origin. McGregor, Weir, Ferguson, McCallum, Naismith, Boyd, Ross, McCann, all top players. 2010, 2011, again, we won the league. We had 17 Scottish players in that squad. People like Neil Alexander, Stuart Whittaker, Stephen Naismith, Miller, Weir, Broadfoot. So again, we had throughout times we have been successful, we have had a big Scottish core to our team and a Scottish core of very good footballers. And I think we do need to have, I'm not saying a huge Scottish presence. I'm not saying 20 players, 15 players, but I am saying that we do need to build a Scottish core into this team. A team that understand the rivalries, a team that understand what it is to be a Rangers player, what it is to play in this league, what it is to be successful in this league. I think this coming season to supplement the new signings that are coming from all across the world. RFC72 says Rice, Lovelace, and a few others now qualify for the European squads because they've been here 3 seasons. I don't think it'll be a problem this season. What I'm talking about, RFC72, is if we allow a number of them to leave and looking also at Scottish players that are going to be good enough and are going to improve our team and understand the Scottish way of playing. Now, look at someone like Chris Boyd, never very successful in Europe, but exceptionally successful in the league because of the fact he understood what it was to play for Rangers. He understood what it was, what you were up against week in, week out. He was a player who, got it. He understood that everyone hated us, that, low blocks, he understood all that. Aldo says, sad thing is many Scottish are not good enough, but not Rangers quality. And I agree, Aldo, there's a lot of players that aren't. I think there are some, and we're going to talk about them in shortly. Actually didn't mind Lovelace. Lovelace is English, though. There's not really many Scottish players that are good enough within our price range. That's the problem, says David. No problems at all, Caleb. Sorry to hear you're not feeling well. Bailey Rice could be the new Bassett, a big bit of a boy. I would love to see Bailey Rice get an opportunity. That's like comparing a Ferrari to a Fiesta. Not one Scottish player in the league is anywhere near the standard of those players. Correct. William, the problem is, though, that, they played an era when you could attract real top talent to the Scottish League and you could attract real top talent to Rangers. Unfortunately, we're not in that era now. We're in an era where we don't have the money to be able to bring in and have the likes, obviously, of Richard Gough, of John Brown, of Mo Johnston, Annie McCoist, for example. I think we should go for Lennon Miller. We've missed out on so much Scottish talent. I mean, Lewis Ferguson obviously is the classic one. Watson and Miller are the only two I'd take. Maybe Cameron. Wouldn't want Armstrong. I think he'd be slightly better than Scott Wright for us. Guess what came into my dad's garage today? A Vauxhall Nova cracking wee sports car. Who are the players, though? Good. We're going to get to those, David. We are going to get to those. We've lost too much of our Scottish identity in the last decade, says Blue Nose John. I think that's why we do need a bit of a Scottish core. Now, you've obviously got to look at it in terms of bringing through our players. So Bailey Rice, for example, is one. Cole McKinnon is another. Maybe someone like Leighton Grant, Robbie Fraser. These are all Scottish players that, could give us a bit of that Scottish identity. RFC72 says a midfield 3 of Rice, Miller, and Watson will be unreal in a couple of years. I'd bring them now to get them up to speed. That's a good shout from 72 there. What about the big Canadian with the Motherwell Bear, Thea Bear? Isn't he on loan there? Can see young Zach Lovelace moving on this year. See, because he looked unreal when he was playing. Lovelace has not signed a new contract yet and has said that he wants to go down south. He wants to return to England. That is one of the things that has come up. Barron as well. Is that right? When he thought his contract was, I thought his contract was up this summer as well, to be honest with you. I'm very impatient. I love a good transfer chat, says David. Kenneth Elliott says Josh Doig. That's another name. Now, who are these players that we're talking about? Who are the young Scottish talents that we've got as possible players for Rangers? For me, there are a number of names that stand out. There are a number of players that I would be looking at as possible players for Rangers. Now, the first 4 names that I want to discuss with you today are these 4 here. Lennon Miller, Connor Barron, David Watson, and Josh Doig. Those are the 4. Good question, although I do not know yet. Usually home kit comes out first, then the away kit and the third kit. Yes, absolutely. Anyone seen the third kit? No, I haven't seen the third kit yet. Yes, he spoke to Stevie at Heart and Hand, and he said his contract was up in 2025, said he wants to stay. That's good news. Lovelace wants to be in the first team before he signs, what I heard. But you know what? If that's the case, get him in the first team. I personally, we're going to get to him. He is part of my next little trench of players, Kenneth and Ian, don't worry. I would love to have the purple colours. A2 Ferguson, yes, please, obviously smash that like. We need to avoid buying Scottish. Now, I think that's not right. There's a number of Scottish players I would actually be looking at in this window and thinking, you know what, we do need to bring some of these Scottish players into the club. So Lennon Miller, Connor Barron, David Watson, and Josh Doig are players that I think are worth looking at in this window. So if we start with Lennon Miller, I mean, Lennon Miller for me is a top player. He really is a top player. You look at what he can do. You look at the fact that he's a player. He looked good against them, for example. His passing range is excellent. His he is a very, very talented player. He has already got as well a wealth of first team experience. I mean, this season he's played 32 first team games, 1 goal, 3 assists. So 4 goal contributions in 32, and he is only 17 years old. So again, this is a young lad who has a future in the game, has a big future in the game. He's under contract until 2025. So he still has 2 years to run on his current deal. The one thing that kind of scars me, guys, is the Lewis Ferguson thing. The fact that we lost Lewis Ferguson out. We could do with someone like Lennon Miller. We need to stop missing out on these top Scottish talents. I agree, Philip. I wish we had signed Lewis Ferguson. Where are these players going to play? These boys won't be wanting to come in and be on the bench, says William. I think the thing is, though, they're not going to be on the bench, William, because I think there will be rotation next season. I don't see Philippe Clement having a starting 11 and keeping that starting 11 forevermore. I can't see that happening. I genuinely can't. I think he will rotate the team. So I think if some of these young players come in, like Lennon Miller, like Connor Barron, like Josh Doig, like David Watson, I think they will get an opportunity to play at some point. But for me, it's because these lads understand the Scottish game. They understand, what it is to play for Rangers. They understand the demands that Rangers are under. They understand the pressure that Rangers are under. They understand the fact that teams will raise their game against Rangers because they were the part of those teams that did raise their game. So I don't really care who we buy. Just fucking Pete Celtic, fed up with this losers tag, me too. I take Miller, but I've seen it will cost 1.5 million. Don't know if we'd pay that for a 17-year-old. I mean, 1.5 million is cheap, Stuart, if I'm being honest for you, even for a 17-year-old. I mean, Lennon Miller is certainly someone I would be considering as a possible Rangers player of the future. The next player I would love Rangers to be looking at is, of course, David Watson of Kilmarnock. I think he is a cracking young player. He's a player who can obviously play in a range of positions. He can play central midfield, attacking midfield, defensive midfield. So again, he's a player who could fit into our team and play in a number of positions. He's only 19 years old. Apologies. Right-footed, under contract till 2026. Transfer value around 1.5 million at the moment. So again, affordable. These guys are affordable. Even end paying 2 mil for them. Look at Watson's. This is Watson's stats for this season. He has a wealth of experience. 45 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, 5 goals in the league. So 2 assists, 7 goal contributions in 31 games. So for me, again, this is another player that we should be looking at. A player like David Watson, young, up and coming, talented, wants to be a player, wants to definitely be looking at. So for me, Watson is another one that that we should definitely be looking at as a player coming into the club. So let's get to your live chat comments in a minute when they're all over the place. Huckster says, admittedly, it's very early in the rebuild, but if we're going to do it on the South American route for the bulk of transfers, I hope they adapt to the Scottish winter better than Cifuentes. Good shout from that. Celtic will sign Miller or Watson as a long-term Callum McGregor replacement. Rodgers always dips into the Scottish market. And this is another thing, William, we can't allow to happen is them to always get the fact that, that they are always get the player, always get these top young Scottish players. We're going to look at Armstrong, Ian. Don't worry, we will look at Armstrong. He's on the list. I take him on loan as City. Look, this is the whole Calvin Phillips thing. I think the Calvin Phillips thing is dead in the water. I think if he moves from Manchester City, he will go back to Leeds. I don't think he will come north of the border, if I'm being honest. But David Watson is certainly worth a look if I was looking at these players. David Watson is certainly someone I would be taking a good, long, hard look at as a possible Rangers player. I think he's someone who could come in, play in that 10 role for us, replace Cantwell at times. I think he could play as part of that midfield too as well, alongside Diamande or alongside Sterling. I think the more young, up-and-coming talented players you've got, the more options you've got, to come off the bench or to play would be excellent, I think. I really do think. I certainly hope he isn't Ian. That would be a major backward step for him, especially considering Feyenoord are interested in him. So, look, I hope that, that David Watson is certainly someone we are looking at. And like I said, because of the reason that I think we need Scottish players who understand the Scottish Premier League, understand what it is to play them, understand what it is to play for us. So David Watson is the next one on my list. Okay, Connor Barron. Now, there's lots of rumours around Connor Barron, in terms of what the future holds for Connor Barron. Some people are saying that he wants to go and play abroad. Some people are saying that he'd be quite happy to move to one of the big two in Scotland. Some people are saying he wants to go south of the border. Look, at the moment, Connor Barron has not come out and clarified his future. He has not come out and said, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I want to do that. So at the end of the day, Connor Barron is, as far as I'm concerned, still up for grabs. So Connor Barron is someone I think that, we should be taking a look at. The guy is available for a compensation fee only, which is not going to be massively high. He's a player who can run a midfield. He can sit in that midfield too. He is a top player. And I think, he played well against them as well. And for me, like I said, it's building up this core of young Scottish talent, these players we can develop and improve and pass on and even sell in the future. And Connor Barron is another one that we need to be looking at. So Connor Barron is yet another one off the list. I think, he's got that bite about him, and I think that's the other thing these Scottish players would bring. Watson, Barron and Miller would all, for me, bring a little bit of that bite, a little bit of that physicality, something we at times lack. Particularly in the Old Firm derby, that bit of a niggle, that bit of a get stuck in, the bit of a, look at Callum McGregor. He says to turn around, said to Tom Lawrence, "Are you the new hard man?" Tom Lawrence shrank after that comment. So for me, Connor Barron wouldn't, Lennon Miller wouldn't, Davy Watson wouldn't. So for me, these are players we should certainly be looking at. Would take Miovski no problem to help out Danilo next year and have Dessers as a backup striker. I'd keep Dessers as possibly a third choice striker and hardly play him. That'd be the best policy. Timms won't pay $8 million for Miovski. I think Cantwell is getting sold, and I don't disagree. We are going to talk about Pod Cantwell on Saturday with Sarah, so please obviously tune in for that. Ian, that was always going to happen. They will get him cheaper than we would. Rogers has had Miovski watched all season. They've always had a connection with Aberdeen and players. Bojan Miovski is reportedly on the radar of Dutch heavyweights Feyenoord. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I assume Barron's contract has not expired with the Sheep yet. I think it runs out at the end of June at CGM, so that's probably why. Offer Aberdeen 10 million and Dessers for Miovski. Actually offer them 10 million Dessers and they can keep Miovski. McGregor is taking on the brown role of pantomime villain. He certainly is. Blue nose, absolutely. I think Rangers should put Todd through a social media rehab, says Caleb. What, he's going to withdraw him from social media? I think that'll be funny. Obviously, the next player on the list is Josh Doig. Now, I think Josh Doig would have been an option, perhaps, if we hadn't picked up Hefte and we hadn't got Robbie Fraser and we hadn't got Ridvan coming out today and saying that he's staying, he doesn't want to go anywhere. So for me, I don't genuinely think that Ridvan Yilmaz is going anywhere. I think he's staying. I think obviously Hefte is there. Hopefully Robbie Fraser stays. So I genuinely don't think Josh Doig is an option. I don't think we need another left back. He's not really anywhere. He can't really play anywhere else. So for me, Josh Doig is kind of a dead one. That's a player that I don't think we look at. I don't think we need. So I don't think Josh Doig is on the list of options. Janet McFarlane says, don't bring religion into anything, but Miovski is supposed to be Jewish. Would he want to go after the way they treated the other player? I've heard that rumor. I don't know if he is or not, Janet. There's also the rumor surrounding the Israeli goalkeeper from Bayern Munich that Celtic are reportedly interested in. And why would he want to go to the most anti-Semitic club in Europe? I don't get that at all. Their fans are horrible. Their fans are just the most anti-Semitic, nastiest bunch in the whole of Europe. So I don't get why that would be the case. So yeah, that's what I don't understand at all. Now, the other player that a few of you have already mentioned is, of course, Danny Armstrong, who is obviously at Killy. These are Danny Armstrong's stats from this season, and they're quite decent stats. I was looking at them last night, actually. He's played 33 games in the Premiership for Killy, scored 6 goals, 10 assists. So 16 goal contributions in 33 games is about 1 in 2, which is not bad. League Cup, 1 goal, 3 assists. Scottish Premiership top 6 split, 5 games, no goals, no assists. SFA Cup, 2 goals, 1 assist. So again, 47 appearances, 9 goals, 14 assists, 23 goal contributions in 47 is not a bad number. He's a winger. He can play in a number of positions. He can play right wing. He can play left wing. He can play in the attacking midfield role. So again, he's a very much a multi-purpose player, a hybrid player. Throughout Danny Armstrong's career as well, we've got some stats on his career here. He's had 118 games for Killy, 23 goals, 26 assists. That's 49 goal contributions in 118 games. When he was at Wraith, 26 goal contributions in 65, 10 for Wolves under 21s. Ross County, 1 goal and 8. Dunfermline, 1 assist in 6. So he's got an experience of obviously coming through the youth system at Wolves. Again, another very talented player, a Scottish player. I mean, I've heard people compare him to Scott Wright, but I think that's unfair. I think he's better than Scott Wright. Again, I think he'd be a good impact player off the bench. I'm not saying he's a starter. I'm saying he's more a squad player. But yeah, I think he's certainly someone we'd be looking at. I would take Armstrong on a free, but wouldn't pay anything like what Killy would want for him, says CGM. RFC 1872 says Armstrong isn't getting the space for that at us. Does Dundee have any decent players? That was McCowan, wasn't it? Ian Dill was the other one that was on the list. Cash and right for Armstrong, says Alan Austin. Armstrong's not good enough, says Stuart Henderson. Get rid of Tav, Golson, Cantwell, Lawrence, and the other 100k off the wage bill, bringing 3 players at 20k a week max, says William. But like I said, they're all Scottish players that I do think need to be on the list. Lyle Cameron from Dundee is another one, says RFC 1872. So again, that we needed to look at, another player that could possibly be there. Now, look, I know at this moment in time, we seem to be casting our net far and wide in terms of players, but it doesn't appear the Scottish market is particularly coming into consideration. Lyle Cameron's 21, he's 6 foot. He has made 28 appearances in the SPL this season, 5 goals, played in 73% of their starting 11s. He can play as a central midfielder, an attacking midfielder, or a right midfielder, so can play in a number of different positions. Overall this season, he's made 36 appearances and scored 5 goals, played 2,517 Premiership. Again, another player that could well be on the list and in the consideration for Rangers. Stuart says Armstrong would be a decent squad player at most. Hugster says, hopefully they will get sold and we'll have some amount of players not good enough on good wages. They've definitely got some good players at Dundee, says Blue Nose Johnny. Luke McCowan is another one. I think he's about 27. What else have we got here? Stuart says, I'd rather see Hadji than Armstrong in European games. What you've got to kind of do, Stuart, is kind of have a core of Scottish players for the SPL that you play in the SPL, and then players that you play in Europe. You've kind of got to have a little bit of not 2 different teams, but kind of 2 different mixes of teams. Because for me, at times, some of those European players, some of those continental players don't get the whole pressure that we're under, don't get how we've got to play against these low blocks, don't get the old firm, don't get any of that. And for me, that's when we need those Scottish players. And like I said, going back across our history, and I'm not saying for a minute that Lennon Miller, that Connor Barron, that Danny Armstrong, David Watson, Lyle Cameron, Luke McCowan are anywhere near in the same breath as your Goffs, your Fergusons, your Durants, your Johnstons, your McCoists. I'm not saying that for a minute, but what I am saying is, or even your Chris Boyds and your Neil McCanns. But what I am saying is it's about having a core to your Scottish squad of decent Scottish players. Walter Smith always had a core of decent Scottish players in his squad that he used on a regular basis, John Brown, people like that. So for me, we should be trying to replicate that to some degree, in my opinion. Scott Wright won't leave us any swap deals with Scottish clubs. Wright won't want to play for anyone else in Scotland. He would think he's too good for them all, says CGM. I mean, Scott Wright's got to go. I mean, the guy is just useless. I mean, he's absolutely hopeless. He really genuinely is. I would definitely want to get rid of him. 100 people in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. Please. Obviously, 118 watching. Smash that like, obviously. And obviously, sub if you've not yet subbed to the channel. Apparently, Dessa's done 27k a week. Sell, a waste of a wage as a backup striker. And that's the issue, I suppose. If you bring in Danilo, you bring in another striker, is Dessa's going to want to sit on that? You know, I don't know. Obviously, yeah, I would get rid of Wright as well. RFC 56, I would keep Dow for now, though. There's a rumor, we hope to get better soon, Caleb. There's a rumor about Calvin Bassey coming back. I haven't seen that one, Marky boy. Just watching the German game, and Olaf Scholz has gone in to meet the German players in their changing rooms. Davies, 27k a week, too extortionate for a backup. Part of the wider problem, Hugs, that we have got a very bad wage structure at the club at the moment. You know, definitely got thing. To have to spend the season playing Broxy Bear to achieve his testimony. Says Alan. Very good, Alan. I mean, I've played football games. I totally get it in the SPL team and the European team mix. That's what I mean. Have a mix. CGM says, speaking of Hadji, I actually think he is a player who Clement might like. He's a good pro and doesn't plaster rubbish on social media, unlike Cantwell, who Clement would sell in a heartbeat. Now, it could be that if Cantwell is shipped off, that, you know, that Hadji does have a future at the club, and that's good. You know, I would love to see Hadji get it. I like Hadji. You know, I definitely like Hadji's. I know Laura likes him as well. So I would definitely like to see Hadji get a go, certainly, you know, next season. And I think it's important that when he returns from the Euros, that Phil Clement does get a chance to assess him. I think that's spot on. When you go for this squad, it is in some mess. It certainly is. RFC 56. Lewis Mayo, he was a player we let go. Kenneth Elliott, very, you know, I think it would have been a decent backup, probably better than Leon King. Stuza doesn't want Scotland to do very well in the Euros. Lots of comments, guys, coming through. I'm struggling to keep up with your comments tonight. Tav and Golson, Dessa's too expensive to sit on the bench. F217 says, if Celtic sign Miovski, that's a disaster for us and an embarrassment. I think we've got to, mates. Hopefully that injury doesn't scupper any move. BR just our luck. I don't think we'll get Cholak back. I don't think that's any chance of that, Geordie, if I am being honest. But look, I think there is a need to bring in some Scottish talent. I certainly hope that, you know, we are looking at that Scottish talent. I certainly think, you know, that is definitely something we do need. So that's a possible. And I do think that, like I said, Lennon Miller, Connor Barron, Danny Armstrong, Lyle Cameron, even to some extent Luke McCowan are players we should be looking at and developing a team that's kind of a mix for SPL and European games. So we've got a team that knows what it is to be Rangers, knows how it is to come up against the low block, or what it means to be in the Old Firm and have that bite and that fight. You know, I don't think that, you know, at the end of the day, this is a team that can afford to be made up of all foreign players. We do need to have a Scottish core to this team, not a British core. I know people say, well, Tav's English, Goldson's English. You know, no, not an English core. And you might think that's weird coming from an Englishman. But for me, you've got to have a Scottish core. That's what you really do need, I think, in this team. That mob won't break the bank for Bojan Miovski. The biscuit tin will stay shut. There are far better strikers than Miovski out there. Why are we thinking of splashing 8 million on him, says Alan. Scott Wright's wages is the problem. Trying to get rid of him. No one will match it. Good point. We should be signed my leader from Hertha, who was on loan at Hibs before Armstrong every day of the week, says William. Sounds like COVID, maybe, or flu. Caleb, poor Caleb. Do you think Matondo will be sold? I mean, he's another one. I mean, it depends on what offers come in for him. That's the big issue for me. You know, if someone comes in with a big bid for him, then maybe we let him go. But I do think we do need this Scottish core, and we do need to bring some Scottish players into this team. Now, there is reports tonight that Al Riyadi claim that Al Ettifaq are ramping up their summer plans by preparing a move for Tavernier and Goldson. Ettifaq have said to have stepped up with the duo being on Gerrard's shopping list this summer. That is according to Al Riyadi of Saudi. Let's hope that that report is true. Look, I have the utmost faith in Niels Koppen. I have the utmost faith in Philippe Clement. To bring success to this club, to build this team, to build our squad up. But we have to have faith in what they're doing. The players they've signed so far, Cortez, Diamande, very good players, very, very good players. We're paying 8 million for Miovski or anyone playing in Scotland, says CGM 55. I think that's a great point. As soon as any Scottish player looks decent, they get snapped up abroad or down south. We can't compete with the wages or the transfer fee. That is a good point. Caleb, person who gave out all these contracts with mad wages needs a boot in the balls, says Hugster. That is one Ross Wilson, buddy. That is one Ross Wilson. Rahmani will be our Miovski, possible. We are the people. We are not getting Shankland. That's already been denied by the club that Shankland is not even on the radar for Rangers at all. David says he won't believe that Tav and Goldson are gone until I see it with my own eyes. Me neither. I will not see it at all. Caleb, get yourself to bed, buddy, and look after yourself. Look, it's going to be a brilliant summer. It's going to be hopefully a very exciting summer. And today's just proved that, obviously, with the permanent move for Cortez to add to Hefte, we now have 2 through the door. We need to continue to build on that. And here on Glasgow Rangers Nation, we will, of course, be all over it. We can continue to bring you news, updates, reports, talk to you about players, talk to you about the stories around the players, bring you all the, all the different stories that are coming out of the club. Best way to make sure you don't miss out, obviously, is to smash that sub. My work is being flooded with Tim's, just got a promotion and got to put a stop to it. New questions getting asked at interviews from now on. I am Neo. That sounds spot on. Hopefully, Niels is getting some deals in motion at the transfer room in the summit in Mexico. I don't know where he is at the moment, Alan. I've heard he's in Mexico. Somebody else says he's in Argentina. I don't know where he is. He could be anywhere. He could be anywhere, buddy. He could be absolutely anywhere. We've got 2 more pods live this week. We've got one on Thursday night. No Blue Nose. I've heard nothing more about that at all. I will tap up some of my Bolton colleagues that I know to try and find out a bit more information about that one. So look, I'll try and get onto that. Billy Gilmore, I can't see him coming back. Who would you like us to sign, Harry? Adrian Duncan, good question. Who would I like us to sign? I'd like us to sign Lennon Miller. I'd like us to sign Connor Barron. I do think those are 2 players that would really add to our midfield if you're talking Scottish players. If you're talking outside of Scotland, I think, who would I like to see us sign? That's a great question. I would like to see us go for someone like Rahmani looks a good player, certainly someone I think could make a difference. I'm trying to sort of temper my expectations here because I know our budget is not massive. I know we're not going to spend 15, 20 million pounds on a player. But no, Connor Barron, Lennon Miller, Albi and Rahmani, all players I hope that we are genuinely interested in. Geordie, that is a joke I've heard so many times. Adama Nagalo as a CB with my dream signing, says RF72. Connor Barron hates the jungle gym, says Blue Nose. Even more reason to sign Connor Barron. Mate, if he's going to get a Bolton, I'll bloody drive him there myself. As long as it's not Tav RFC. Agree. I mean, they're the players that I would look at. I'm going to do a bit more research. That question's come a bit out of the blue. Right, guys, I'm going to Scunthorpe for goals. So that's probably about his level, mate, these days. Right, guys, that is it for tonight, obviously. We obviously will be talking a lot more. I would like us to sign Tony Cruz, but I also wanted to marry Katy Perry, says CGM55. Mate, I'm with you there. I would love us to sign. I'd love us to sign Luka Modric, even at his age, and I'd love to marry Margot Robbie, but it's never going to happen. It's a single life for me. Staying single, guys. Married to Rangers. That's the future. Anyway, so there's 2 more pods coming up this week. We've got Thursday Night Live on here on the channel. I'll be joined by a guest, Wendy McEwen, who is Wendy Woo on TikTok. She will be joining me on Thursday night. Sunday night, for the final word, I will be joined by Sarah McGeechan. Sarah McGeechan is a massive Rangers fan, lives down south, originally from Scotland. Dad's from Scotland. Dad's a diehard Blue Nose. Brought her up as a diehard Blue Nose. Son's a Scott. Son, even though he's only I think 9, is a massive Rangers fan. So Sarah McGeekin will be joining me on Saturday night. I'm also in talks as well with another young lady called Natalie Ferguson to come onto the pod as well. So plenty of people to come on. No worries. Thank you. Although there's a lot of good channels. Rangers Journal, guys, check out Rangers Journal. Check out the 4 Stands of Ibrox. Check out the Gallant Few. Obviously, all decent pods. Please check out some of those smaller pods. So, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. Why don't we sign Mbappe? He would have been free. That's a great shout. Okay, as always, on the way out, 2 things I always ask of you. Number 1, please, obviously, smash that like. It beats that evil algorithm. And number 2, please remember always, we are the people.